They always feel the shift before anyone else notices it. A tension in the air, a subtle imbalance in the relationships around them, a heaviness in their own body that doesn't come from stress, but from knowing something is about to break. INFJs sense collapse long before it happens, not through fear or drama, but through a quiet internal alarm that nobody else seems to hear. They warn gently. They adjust silently. They hope things can still be saved. Yet the world dismisses what they feel, until the moment the collapse finally arrives. This is the curse INFJs carry. They recognize the ending long before the first crack appears. They see the emotional distance growing, the loyalty fading, the energy shifting, the patterns repeating. They predict the fallout, not because they're pessimistic, but because they've learned to listen to what people hide. But when they speak, others shrug it off. When they retreat, others call it overthinking. And when the collapse finally hits, everyone asks the same question. Why didn't you say something? The truth is, they did. They always do. No one listens until it's too late. Before you go further, I want you to answer one thing for me in the comments. Do you feel the collapse before it comes, or do you only see it when it arrives? Type, I feel it early if you've lived this. And make sure you subscribe, because the next part will show exactly how INFJs sense emotional disasters long before they happen, and why the world keeps ignoring them. INFJs feel emotional collapse early because they detect tiny shifts in energy long before others notice. They feel the tremor before the earthquake. They sense the imbalance before anyone speaks. It starts as something almost invisible, a pause in someone's tone, a hesitation in their presence, a change in the emotional temperature of a room. Where others see nothing, the INFJ feels the beginning of an unraveling, a quiet signal that something they relied on is about to slip. They don't need confrontation, explanation, or evidence. Their body registers the shift long before the mind can articulate it. And this early awareness becomes both their warning and their burden. They move through their days carrying this subtle tension like a whisper in their chest. Maybe everyone else is laughing, talking, dismissing the cracks, but the INFJ already knows something is collapsing beneath the surface. They can feel the emotional distance growing, even when the words still sound warm. They can sense the uncertainty in someone's heartbeat, even when the smile looks convincing. It's not paranoia. It's pattern recognition, a lifetime of noticing what others overlook. And once they feel that shift, they cannot unfeel it. The emotional truth hits them long before reality catches up. This early insight isolates them. They try to warn people, or at least soften the impact, but almost no one listens. People call them dramatic, too sensitive, overthinking, until the collapse finally arrives exactly the way they felt it would. And when everything falls apart, everyone else is shocked, confused, blindsided. The INFJ isn't. They were grieving the beginning months before the end arrived. Their emotional collapse didn't come from the event. It came from carrying the certainty of it alone. They sense when relationships are weakening through subtle changes in tone, presence, and emotional availability. An INFJ doesn't need a breakup, a fight, or a dramatic shift to know when someone is slipping away. They feel it in the pauses between words, in the way a person's voice loses warmth, in the silence that suddenly grows heavier than the conversations. They notice the micro hesitations, the delayed replies, the forced laughter, the way someone's energy pulls back, even when their body is still present. To others, everything seems normal. To the INFJ, the emotional thread holding the relationship together has already started to fray. It's the little things that speak the loudest. The shorter messages, the distracted eyes, the absence of curiosity, the quiet disappearance of effort. The INFJ can sense when someone is emotionally checking out long before any explanation is given. It's as if their intuition scans every interaction for truth, picking up on emotional static that others overlook completely. They don't need proof. The emotional atmosphere tells them everything. They feel the decrease in connection like a cold draft entering a once warm room. This early awareness hurts them more deeply because the grief begins while the relationship is still alive. They start mourning a bond that the other person hasn't even acknowledged is fading. They try to hold on, to speak gently, to reconnect without seeming desperate. But the more they feel the distance, the more they realize they are the only one still fighting for closeness. And when the final moment comes, the breakup, the silence, the withdrawal, everyone else is surprised. The INFJ isn't. They already lived the loss in advance, quietly preparing their heart for what they sensed long before anyone else dared to admit it. Their intuition warns them when they're giving more than they're receiving, signaling an approaching burnout. INFJs don't wake up one day suddenly drained. Their intuition whispers the warning long before their energy collapses. It begins subtly, almost invisibly, in the imbalance they feel beneath the surface. They notice when they've offered understanding without being understood, when they've shown up for someone who never shows up back, when their emotional effort becomes a one-way current flowing outward with nothing returning to replenish it. To others, it looks like kindness. To the INFJ, it slowly starts to feel like erosion. They catch it in the emotional exchanges, or the lack of them. They feel themselves becoming the listener, the healer, the supporter, while no one asks how they are doing. They feel the weight of conversations that drain instead of uplift, the quiet disappointment of investing deeply in people who only skim their surface. Their intuition keeps tapping them on the shoulder, telling them something is off, that the equation is unbalanced. They sense the growing heaviness in their chest, the fatigue in their thoughts, the way their inner world becomes cluttered with emotions that aren't theirs. At first, they try to fix it. They try giving more, understanding more, offering more compassion, believing the imbalance can be corrected if they just try harder. But the more they give, the emptier they feel, and the voice of their intuition grows sharper. This isn't sustainable. You're carrying too much. You're disappearing again. These realizations hit them not in moments of crisis, but in the quiet seconds when their spirit feels thin and their emotions feel stretched. By the time the burnout arrives, it's not a surprise. It's a confirmation of everything they already knew but didn't want to admit. Their intuition doesn't just warn them, it shows them the truth. They can't keep pouring from a well that no one helps refill. They recognize repeating patterns that predict conflict, instability, or betrayal. INFJs don't need dramatic signs to know when something is about to break. They see it in the patterns long before anyone else notices a shift. While others focus on the moment, the INFJ observes the rhythm beneath it, the small inconsistencies, the subtle changes in tone, the repeated cycles of tension that always return in familiar ways. They remember every emotional pattern, every unresolved conversation, every moment someone's actions contradicted their words. To them, patterns are warnings, not coincidences. They notice when someone begins withdrawing affection the same way they did before, causing hurt. They see when irritation masks something deeper, when avoidance signals dishonesty, when sudden kindness hides guilt. Even the smallest behavioral loops, the same excuses, the same dismissals, the same promises that slowly lose weight, become clear indicators of what's coming. It feels less like guessing and more like déjà vu because they've lived these emotional cycles before and their intuition never forgets. As the pattern repeats, their inner alarm grows louder. The INFJ doesn't confront right away. Instead, they watch quietly, gathering emotional data until the truth forms a complete picture. They track the shift in energy, the distance in someone's eyes, the way conversations become shorter, colder, or overly sweet. To others, the change is invisible. To the INFJ, It's unmistakable. And when the pattern matches a past wound, betrayal, instability, emotional abandonment, they feel the future arriving before it happens. They brace themselves not out of fear, but out of recognition. By the time everything finally collapses on the surface, the INF has already lived the ending in their mind. They saw it forming, step by step, in the patterns everyone else ignored. They feel overwhelmed, not by events, but by carrying unspoken emotional responsibilities for too long. INFJs rarely break because of one dramatic moment. They break because they've been holding everyone else's emotions in silence for months, sometimes years. They absorb tension from the people they love. They soften the sharp edges in conversations. They mediate, soothe, reassure, and stabilize without ever being asked. And because they do it so naturally, so quietly, others don't even realize how much weight the INFJ is carrying. The world sees calm. Inside, they are managing a storm of emotional responsibilities no one even knows exist. They become the emotional anchor, the one who listens when no one listens back, the one who stays steady while others collapse, the one who absorbs conflict so the room doesn't erupt. Over time, these invisible roles stack up like stones on their chest. They carry the fears of the anxious, the anger of the frustrated, the sadness of the lonely, the confusion of the lost, and because they feel everything so deeply, these emotions don't just pass through them, they settle inside. The exhaustion creeps in slowly, disguised as, "I'm just tired," or "I just need a moment." But the truth is heavier. They've been holding too much for too long. The collapse arrives quietly, not with shouting or tears, but with the INFJ shutting down emotionally. Their responses grow softer, their energy fades, their desire to help weakens, not because they've stopped caring, but because they've reached their limit. They look around and realize no one has noticed the weight they were carrying, not because people are cruel, but because the INFJ never showed it. And this realization breaks them more than any event ever could. They weren't overwhelmed by life. They were overwhelmed by the silence in which they carried everyone else's life. Their internal alarm goes off when their environment no longer aligns with their values or emotional truth. INFJs don't wait for chaos or confrontation to know something is wrong. Their inner world reacts the moment their surroundings shift away from what feels authentic. It begins as a quiet discomfort, a subtle tightening in the chest, a sense that the air around them no longer matches who they are becoming. They may still smile, still work, still show up, but internally, something has already clicked. This is no longer right for me. Their intuition doesn't speak in words. It speaks in emotional dissonance, in the quiet ache of being somewhere their soul no longer recognizes. They can feel when a relationship stops aligning with their values long before it ends. They can feel when a workplace becomes toxic, even while everyone else insists it's fine. They sense when their routine, their environment, or their connections begin to pull them away from their deeper truth. It isn't dramatic, it's subtle, like a soft alarm ringing in the background of their thoughts. And the longer they try to ignore it, the louder it becomes. Their body grows restless. Their creativity dims. Their emotions start to feel heavier than the situation seems to justify. These are not signs of stress, they are signs of misalignment. The collapse doesn't happen because life is too heavy. It happens because the INFJ stayed in an environment that was no longer emotionally honest for them. They stayed loyal to a promise they outgrew, to a role that no longer nourished them, to a situation that quietly chipped away at their spirit. And when the alarm becomes impossible to silence, they finally step back, not out of fear, but out of necessity. Because the INFJ knows something most people overlook. When your inner world and outer world stop matching, your soul begins to suffocate. Their collapse is not weakness. It is the cost of staying somewhere their heart already left. When an INFJ finally reaches their breaking point, it's rarely because life hit them all at once. It's because they've been carrying truths no one else could see, holding emotions no one else noticed, and sensing endings long before anyone else was ready to admit them. Their collapse is not sudden. It is the final echo of 1,000 moments where they stayed quiet, patient, and strong for far too long. And when they finally pull back, it isn't abandonment, it's self-preservation. If you've ever felt this silent unraveling inside you, you're not fragile. You're perceptive. You're honest. And you're waking up to what your soul has been trying to tell you. Before you close this video, I want you to ask yourself one thing. What truth has your intuition been whispering that you've been too afraid to listen to? The INFJ journey begins the moment you stop ignoring that voice. If this spoke to you, subscribe so you never miss the insights that help you reclaim your strength, and share your experience, not for validation, but for connection. And if you watched until the end, type "I feel the shift" in the comments, so I know exactly who carries this depth within them.